A chubby person can be seen, thinking, how did this all happen? A maid introduces herself, saying, my name is Ilsa. As of today, I have been assigned to serve Prince Ludwig. Ludwig thinks to himself, of all things to think, I have been reincarnated as the protagonist of a depraved parody. To get to know that it's a simulation RPG I used to play obsessively in my previous life, enslaving countless women, including priestesses, knights, and even elves. In this grim tale, Revolt of the Ugly Orc, the monstrous crowned Prince Ludwig von Baldoberg leads a brutal conquest. This game is notorious for its bleak endings. Even if you destroy all the countries, the protagonist is executed in the true ending. There are also defeat endings, rebellious endings, suicide endings, a game of utter despair and nothing more. The survival rate is 0%. This girl, she is also one of the main heroines, a tragic viscount's daughter. Her name is Ilsa Hildebrand, who was turned into Ludwig's sex slave. He made a sound, and the maid asked, what is it? The main character thinks, well, this is our first meeting, isn't it? The girl replied, yes, that is correct. Then what year, what month, and what day is it today, he asked. She says, it's March 17th, year 270 of the imperial calendar. The main character thinks, that's 5 years before the game story begins, isn't it? Originally, this girl was supposed to have already become the slave during the tutorial. The game began with the scene of that act. You know which one? With 5 years in my hand, I might be able to alter the story. I must absolutely avoid the bad ending. She was watching him and asked, so what should I do? He replies, for now, there is nothing particular I need from you. So, well, thank you for your hard work, he says. She was absolutely shocked, not knowing what happened. It's unnatural for a crown prince to bow politely to a maid. I have never spoken to such a cute girl in my past life, so I am nervous, he thinks. She assures him, saying, I am here to serve Prince Ludwig, so please give me any order you desire. Can you please? The main character says. Well, in that case, I appreciate it if you could leave me alone for a while. She was a bit scared hearing this and asked, did I do something wrong? He replies, no, not at all. He says, I am rather grateful that you are willing to love someone as ugly as me. Please take it easy, Ilsa. She says hesitantly, okay, then excuse me. He remembers something about a girl who said to her father, pointing toward him, I absolutely refuse to marry a hideous monster like an orc like him. I absolutely hate him. When Ludwig was 13 years old, his intended fiancée, Sophia Maria de Belga, princess of the neighboring kingdom, uttered these heartless words to his face. Her remarks deeply scarred the heart of the once innocent and shy boy. Furthermore, she spread rumors claiming that Ludwig inherited his father's violent and despicable nature, that he indiscriminately lusted after women. As a result, even other nobles said, I can't let a beautiful princess marry a hideous orc monster. The rumor reached Ludwig's ears, driving him to shut himself away in his room. Hoping to comfort him, the emperor gave him a toy, something he could break as much as he wanted. It was after Ludwig laid his hands on her that he began to break. In his previous life, he empathized with Ludwig's circumstances. I was an outcast throughout elementary, middle, and high school, a university student who never once interacted with others. At least he didn't lay hands on her. Maybe that will change the story for the better, he thinks. Even so, his restlessness and drive to destroy other countries likely won't change. The emperor, not Ludwig, desires the invasion, and removing the emperor might be the key to rewriting the scenario. But when he thinks about it, he realizes that's impossible. If the emperor, Ludwig's strongest ally and supporter, were to disappear, the disgruntled nobles would kill him immediately because his father is the emperor, and as he is the prince, you know. He looks somewhere and thinks, what am I supposed to do? He looked in a mirror, thinking, maybe if I slim down, I could at least look somewhat presentable. After all, I am the son of a robust and handsome emperor. His eyes sparkled, thinking, okay, that's it. I will slim down, avoid being hated by the main heroines of the game, or rather, this world, and steer clear of all the bad endings. He made up his mind. We observe that the door opens, and the Emperor, Otto von Baldoberg, entered. He asked Ludwig if he did not fancy the girl he just sent as his maid. According to the game's character setting, this guy, the Emperor, is a tyrant, but not just that. He is also a foolish father who is wholeheartedly devoted to only his son. The main character says, no, not at all. Someone as beautiful as Ilsa is far too good for me. Ilsa's family is a fallen noble house, a viscount in name only. To restore their standing, they accepted the Emperor's command for her to serve as the main character's toy. But if she thinks I dislike her, it would ruin her resolve and dedication. The father of the main character says, just make sure not to take her seriously. There are better matches for you, after all. He patted his son on the head, saying, you seem to have regained some brightness in your expression. That's good. He got into a serious stance and promised his son that the kingdom of Belga and the surrounding nations that wronged him shall feel his iron wrath. I promise you that when the time comes, Ludwig, you shall have your chance for revenge. The main character was speechless as his father left with his two mistresses in his arms. The main character thinks, isn't the Emperor way too indulgent with his son? But it's me inside, not his real son, Ludwig. Suddenly, he got some pain as his head was throbbing. My head feels like it's splitting open. Someone help, he screamed out. Here comes Ilsa, his maid, who says, Prince Ludwig, are you okay? With him on the bed, he was totally tired as she, with tearful eyes, says, Prince Ludwig, thank God you regained consciousness. The main character saw her and was blushing. He looked toward her chest and was captivated as she asked, why are you so worried about me? Naturally, you are my master. After all, she replied. I see, he says. In the game, she was like a loyal dog, always calling Ludwig her master. He says, well, I am fine now, so thank you, Ilsa. She called out, Prince Ludwig, you are truly a different person from the things I heard about in the rumors. He asked, really? She replied, blushing, yes. That's settled then. Ilsa, you don't need to stay here anymore if my presence is preventing you from resting. I shall take my leave, she replied. Well then, excuse me. After she leaves, the main character tried to do some squats, but failed like a fat person. He thinks, this is tough. Well, of course it is. The next morning arrives, and while having dinner, he says, from now on, I would like my meals to be more vegetable-based and smaller portions. The maid who heard all of this was quite worried. She asked, are you feeling unwell, master? He replied, no, I just want to lose some weight. She was absolutely shocked. Prince Ludwig wants to lose weight? Really? The main character thinks to himself, so, after breakfast, there is something I would like to ask of you, he says. She, with a distressed face, says, oh, understood. I will prepare for it. So could you give me a little time? She asked. The main character, looking toward her, knows that she is totally misunderstanding this. He called out, saying, no, I'd like you to help me train to lose some weight. I need guidance. She had her mind spinning and a blush on her face, saying, oh, it's like that. The main character thinks, as someone who has been single my whole life, asking a beautiful girl like Ilsa for anything romantic is way too high of a hurdle. She says, but why would you ask me for such a thing? If it's training, wouldn't the Knight Commander or someone more suited be a better choice? The main character replies, you're actually quite skilled, aren't you, Ilsa? Her family, the Hildebrand House, is a shadow clan known for assassination and covert operations. Among the heroines, she excels in speed and specializes in swift multi-attacks, playing the role of a scout perfectly. He got on his knees, bowing to her, saying, please, I am serious about changing. I have been insulted by the neighboring princess, rejected by numerous nations. I am the crown prince, yet no one has even considered getting engaged to me. That's why I want to prove them wrong, especially that Princess Sophia. Of course, I don't expect to transform dramatically, but at least I would like to be less repulsive. The girl was a bit speechless, but then says, very well then. I, Ilsa Hildebrand, will meet your expectations no matter what it takes. So, the training seems to have started. He was very excited, saying, do not hold back on me and train me as hard as you want. I will endure anything. Taking her name, she says, or rather asks him seriously, are you really sure about that? Of course, I am counting on you. He bowed his head and says, please don't hold back. She replied, understood, then I will train you without holding back anything. He thanked her, but she stopped him, saying, I am not Ilsa from now on. You may address me as instructor. He replied, right, instructor. She had a very dark look on her face and says, you are only permitted to respond with yes or yes, ma'am. He says yes. Good. Let us begin training. He asked, that place will be my first training area. Is it? She pointed toward the balcony. As he looked toward it, he was quite confused. Forgive me for saying this, but Prince Ludwig's excess fat has accumulated over many years. Exercise and dieting alone won't get rid of it at this point. We must either cut it off or compress it to reshape your body physically. The training I am about to commence is a special body modification technique passed down in the Hildebrand family. Is it true? He asked. Yes. Please leave everything to me, she says. He says, I am counting on you. If it's to lose weight, to be reborn, I will do anything. He had a very dark face as she said, first, you'll have to jump off from here. He was a bit hesitant, but she pushed him, saying no questions asked. As he fell down toward the ground, he noticed that there were no injuries. Did my fat actually act as armor and protect me? She, who bends down toward him, says, it seems like there are no issues after all. He thinks, hey, when did you? She, with a smile, says, next, climb back up to the balcony and repeat this process. He had quite a worried look on his face, saying, no way, this is impossible. His maid, who is acting as his trainer, says, your responses are limited to yes or yes, ma'am, remember? Crying, he says, yes, ma'am. So he climbed, fell again and again. How are you feeling, Prince Ludwig? As she sat right on him, maybe massaging his back. He says, well, it feels kind of nice. He says, you are tired too, instructor. You don't have to give me a massage. That's unacceptable. She replied, proper body care is essential. Still, her body is so close, it's making him nervous. She says, Prince Ludwig, are you sure it's all right for me not to comfort you? She directly asked this question. After all, the role assigned to her, by the Emperor of course, was this. The main character says, I don't expect that kind of thing from you, instructor. Besides, it's something that people do when they're in love, not because someone ordered it. So don't worry about it, instructor, and thank you for the massage. She replies, since we're not training, please call me by my name, Ilsa, and drop the formal tone. He accepted, saying, in that case, Ilsa. She says, yes. Let's keep working hard tomorrow too. Of course, I look forward to it, he replied. 6 months have passed by then, and she says, Prince Ludwig, you have slimmed down significantly. Yes, he has, but his weight hasn't decreased at all. She says, that can't be helped. The training you have been doing presses your fat into a denser form. To compress it further, starting today, we will train from the 3rd floor balcony. He was very scared. He climbed, saying, oink. Hey, instructor, will I ever be able to walk on walls like you? She was walking on walls and says, unfortunately, you lack the aptitude for that. The main character thinks, why did I just say oink? She replies to him, but do not worry, your potential is far greater than that. In 3 months, we will proceed to the next stage of training. As she pushed him and he was falling, he thinks, there is more? Wow. By the way, oink is used as the sound of a pig. We observe Ilsa saying, today, we will train you to evade a caliper. A few months later, in winter, beat a caliper, like this monster, Calipari, the sea monster Calipari, a minor enemy unit from the game's early side quest. If defeated, the heroine faces a humiliating fate. She says, it's fine if you get caught. It's just your dignity which will be on the line. As she pushed him into the water, she says, if you run in a straight line, you'll get caught in no time. Learn to dodge effectively. He had quite the distress on his face. How am I supposed to do that? We observe as soon as this water monster saw the main character, it found its next prey and was on the attacking side. She, who cheers the main character, saying, that's the way, young master. Keep practicing until you can avoid them perfectly. He said, I will try. The monster, which comes closer to him, started to lick him, and the main character, knowing his fate, starts to cry. Anyway, it looks like this was enough, and she says, "Well done, young master," as she was giving him a hand and getting him out of the swimming pool. The main character's pants drop, and it looks like she saw something she shouldn't have. We observe her blushing, but still trying to see with the gaps in the fingers she put on her face. The main character was traumatized as well. It looks like it has been a few more months, and the main character has become quite skinny. Ilsa, who is observing him, says, "I still don't think that combat style suits you, Prince Ludwig." The main character asked, "What?" She replies, "From what I have seen, a sword and shield would suit you better." He says, "I'm sorry, instructor, but I can't compromise on this. Sword, shield, bow, hammers. There are all kinds of weapons, but I have always blazed my path with this style, because dual sword are the coolest weapon, aren't they? I'm going to aim for the strongest with this style." She replies, "I feel like your goal has shifted, but the strongest?" She took a breath, saying, "Very well. I will train you to be competent in it. However, prepare yourself for training 3 times as intensive as what you have endured so far." The main character shivered all over his face. Now he was getting dropped from the 5th floor, and that pervert monster was after him day after day. Not just that, but he was also learning swordsmanship. He has finally done it. He was totally in shape now. Ilsa, clapping for him, says, "Impressive, Prince Ludwig. It's only been a year, but it feels like an eternity." To the main character, Ilsa says, "With this, my role as your instructor has been fulfilled." He replies, "But I have only slimmed down. The cruel sword technique you taught me is still far from being perfect. At first, I thought about distancing myself from Ilsa's route to avoid getting involved, but now I can't imagine life without her." He asked her to please keep guiding him. She says, "Are you sure about that?" "Absolutely," he thinks. "Over the past year, Ilsa has become someone incredibly important to me, but after spending a year as teacher and student, I would like you to open up to me a little more." He thinks, "My name in my past life was Rue Nikadu," so he asked her to call him just Rue. She says, "Understood. From now on, I shall address you as Prince Ludwig." He was happy, saying, "I am counting on you." She replies, "As always, I will do my utmost to serve you." A few days later, at a banquet, everyone's keeping their distance from the main character, staring at him. "I have always been disliked, and my change in physique probably draws even more attention. I should retreat to a less noticeable spot." It looks like he saw something and blushed. This was Ilsa. She wore a sexy dress and says, "Prince Ludwig, today's send-off party is in your honor. Is it really okay for you to stay in a corner like this?" He says, "Of course it is, and please stop exuding such an intimidating aura toward everyone." We observe the Emperor, the main character's father, arrive. He says, "You have truly changed." He thanked his father for the kind words. As his father says, "The place will feel quite lonely without you, but the Academy accepts royalty and nobles from other nations. Make the name of Crown Prince Ludwig von Baldoberg known. Bow everyone to your will." He instructed Ilsa, "You there support my son properly day and night." She says, "Understood." As he left, he says, "Do your best." The main character apologized to Ilsa, saying, "Absolutely. Serving you like this is only natural." She says, "Dedicating myself is just expected." He thinks, "Not like I asked her to say those things, though." "Ilsa, let's keep working together at the Academy." She was very happy, saying, "Yes, as your classmate and maid, I will serve you well." He thinks to himself, "Ilsa is 2 years older than me. She might manage as a maid, but being a classmate is quite a stretch, you know." On the day of the entrance ceremony, this looks about right. The me from a year ago would never have imagined this. Back then, I really looked like an orc. No wonder Sophia didn't want to marry a hideous monster like me. I heard the Imperial Academy accepts royalty and nobles from other nations, but there is no way Sophia would come here, right? Even she wouldn't be brazen enough to study here after ruining diplomatic relations. As someone calls him, saying, "Prince Ludwig, everything is ready." This beautiful-looking girl is none other than Ilsa, and the main character was quite happy, blushing, seeing her posture. She called out to him, Prince Ludwig. He, in a grim tone, says oink. No, it's nothing. Oh, I thought for a moment you were captivated by me, she says. He replies, of course, I mean, you look stunning. She was very happy, blushing, saying, that's good enough for him. Thank you. As they were in the caravan, she asked, Prince Ludwig, how's your speech as the new student representative? He says, of course, it's perfect, or so I'd like to say, but he was thinking the speech itself is flawless, but standing out in front of everyone is nerve-wracking. She says, don't worry. There isn't anyone more suitable for the role than you, Prince Ludwig. He says, really? Yes. To avoid the bad ending, I have to give it my all, he thinks to himself. He calls out, Ilsa, I will do my best. That's the spirit, Prince Ludwig, she replied. At the Imperial Academy, as the main character helps her down the carriage, she says, Prince Ludwig, this might set a bad example for others. But he says, it's fine. I'm used to being mocked for being the heinous orc. Everyone is staring at him, which might make people think, what is he even trying to do? Even Ilsa herself was quite blushing as the main character pulls her hand. He says, Ilsa, let's get to the entrance ceremony quickly. As he bumped into someone, he calls out for this person, asking, are you all right? This is none other than Sophia. He freaked out, saying, why is this person here? Thinking the Imperial Academy wouldn't accept her for diplomatic reasons. Would it? But he still asked, are you injured? She replied, no, I am fine. He thinks, if the Emperor finds out about this, it could be used politically. She says, could I take your hand? The main character helps her, even hesitating. She thanks him, saying, thank you so much. He says, it's nothing much. She blushes as the main character thinks. Compared to 2 years ago, her reaction is like the difference between night and day. The main character couldn't handle it anymore, and with Ilsa by his side, he ran off, saying, sorry, we are in a hurry, so excuse us. We observe Ilsa was quite angry at the woman, asking, Prince Ludwig, who was that? The main character, trying to calm her down, says, it's all fine. He says, Princess Sophia didn't seem to recognize me as Ludwig. Doesn't that mean I have changed for the better? I absolutely refuse to marry a hideous monster like an orc, she said. She wasn't talking to me directly, but Ludwig's pain and anguish resonated deeply with me. We observe Ilsa squeeze him and give him a tight hug, patting his head. She says, please don't hold it in and let it all out on me. He started to cry as his tears flowed like a river. While sniffing, he says, you don't need to cry for someone like me. It looks like even Ilsa was crying, but says, I'm not crying. As she freaked out, because the main character couldn't breathe, she apologized. As the Emperor concludes his address to all the students and says, do your best, the next congratulatory speech is from the current student, Eleonora de Schwartz-Hardenberg. She's the daughter of the Empire's most powerful ducal family. She says, I congratulate all of the new students on your admission. The main character realized that she is also one of the game's heroines. He thinks, if I don't handle her route properly, a coup will happen. In the story, it leads to the rebellious ending. The way to resolve her route is to make her a slave, but of course, the main character was a bit hesitant. She says, I look forward to learning alongside all of you, and now the new student representative will address you, which is Ludwig. As the main character was pushed by Ilsa, saying, Prince Ludwig, good luck, he walked in, and everyone's attention was on him. On the podium, everyone was looking at him. He had a bit of breathlessness as well as sweat on his face. He says, greetings, everyone. I am Ludwig, the so-called hideous orc. I imagine most of you dislike me. Honestly, I understand why. Aside from Sophia, the nobles from the neighboring nations who rejected my engagement only know the rumors she spread. They haven't even seen me in person. He says, you don't know the real me. Of course you don't. Even within the Empire, only a few have actually had a proper conversation with me. During our time here at the Academy, I hope you will come to know who I truly am. Am I the monstrous orc you have heard of inside and out? Over these 3 years, judge that for yourself. Even if you do, I don't give a damn. The main character thinks, I was nervous, but I managed to finish my speech. The stares remain unchanged, but I will just have to change that myself to avoid the bad ending. Ilsa was very happy, saying, "That was an excellent speech." He also laughed and says, "Not that there was any reaction to it." She says, "The people here must have rotten ears." The main character thinks, her sharp snark is more cutting than usual. "Well, I will start by getting them to know the real me," he says. She says, "Oh, look, they're heading to the classroom. Let's hurry." "Yes," as someone entered through the opening door, saying, "Seriously, isn't that attitude a bit much?" The other guy says as someone's laughing voice comes in. The main character says, "No, it's fine." But looking toward her, he thinks, "I can't believe she's here too." One of the main heroines, a saint of the Minerva Holy Church from the Latin Holy Kingdom, Natalia Silvestri. In the game, she destroyed the kingdom of Belga, which borders the Baldoberg Empire, and frames the empire for it, labeling them as the enemies of the world. She stokes hostility and forms the anti-Baldoberg alliance. In other words, she is one of the most cunning and treacherous characters in Revolt of the Ugly Orc. "I apologize," she says, "for the delay in introducing myself. I'm Natalia, the saint of the Minerva Holy Church." She introduces these people as her holy knights, Batista and Marco. The main character says, "Thank you for the polite introduction. I am Count Prince Ludwig." She, blushing, says, "I still never imagined Crown Prince Ludwig would be such a dreamer." Starting with the sarcasm already, but you don't look like the person that has been described in the rumors. She came too close and even pressed herself against the main character. He freaked out, saying, as expected of one of the strongest heroines, her silver hair and sapphire-colored eyes, pale skin, and faintly rosy lips. She was well-proportioned and beautiful. We observe both the main character's maid and the Holy Knight saying their names as Ilsa says, "Let's hurry to the classroom," and the Holy Knight says, "Unfortunately, we don't have time, so we shall cut the pleasantries short. Hey, let's go." She says, "Don't tell me you have fallen for the saint," and possibly, the main character thinks, "I have another reason to keep my distance from Natalia." It's simple. She might as well drop the title of saint and go by the title of succubus. She is that much of a flirt. He takes a loser like himself and can only say yes to purity and no to flirts. He says to Ilsa, "There is no way I'd be interested in the saint. Don't worry, Ilsa, you're the only one I have ever opened my heart to." She felt so blushy, saying, "Is that so?" In the classroom, the homeroom teacher introduces herself as Matilda Newman. Her design: she is a dead ringer for the NPC soldier mob character from the game. More importantly, there are two other heroines in the class besides Ilsa. Well, at least Sophia isn't here, so thank God. As we observe, the priestess waved at him. "Why is she waving at me?" Seeing this, someone knocks him from behind, saying, "Shall I take care of her?" "Let's not resort to violence right away, okay?" This was his maid, Ilsa. The other heroine present here is Ophelia of the Brine, United Kingdom. She is a heroine who appears in the latter half of the game, the fourth princess of the Brine, United Kingdom, known as the Frenzied Night Princess. True to her name, she has the highest attack power among the heroines. Her damage is second only to the final boss, making her essential to strategy in the game. But this isn't just a game right now. I can't even think about pursuing her route. After all, her conditions for unlocking are quite complicated. Well, that's all for now, the teacher says, ending the class. The dormitory classes will begin in earnest tomorrow. Please rest at the dormitories today. He calls out his maid, saying, "I'm sorry for making you act as my attendant when you are also studying as a student." She replies, "What are you saying? Serving you, Prince Ludwig, is a privilege that I would never recommend to anyone else." He took her name, saying, "I will make sure you are happy no matter what." He thinks, "If I manage to avoid the bad ending and become the next emperor, I will ensure her family is fully restored." She got quite a blush on her face and says, "Thank you so much." Flirtatiously, she and the main character got a letter. Someone says, "Lady Eleonora has sent a formal invitation to Prince Ludwig. It's for the freshman welcome ball. It's a tradition for royal family members attending the Imperial Academy to always participate in such events." Oh, I see. So there's no excuse here, he thinks to himself. Eleonora is a character plotting to overthrow the empire. This ball definitely has some ulterior motives behind it, right? I will attend tonight. Lady Eleonora will be quite pleased, he says. He asked his maid, saying, I have never danced before. She says, don't worry. I will be your dance partner for the entire evening, Prince Ludwig. All you need to do is entrust yourself to me. Oh, he says, but wouldn't you rather dance with someone else? She made a stubborn face, saying, no, I am more than happy to be by your side, Prince. Then please take care of me, he replied. At this event, as people are whispering, the main character, as well as Ilsa, arrived. The sense of not belonging here is overwhelming for the main character. While Ilsa is more beautiful than anyone else in this room, she's 3 years older than me, so she carries herself with perfect elegance. He calls out to her, saying, maybe it would have been better if I hadn't come at all. She retorts, what are you saying? This gathering wouldn't even begin without you, Prince. You are the star of the empire. Her words make him happy, but I am still the hideous orc, and judging by these glares, everyone here agrees with it. Here comes Eleonora, who says, thank you all for gathering here tonight. It's a modest feast. Please enjoy yourselves to your heart's content. As she collapsed, the entire event begins. Nobody is dancing. Ilsa says, it seems everyone is refraining from being the first to dance. After all, they wouldn't dare start before you, Prince, the crown prince of the Baldoberg Empire. Hey, look over there, Professor Newman and the Academy faculty. I can see with the professor watching, they can't just ignore me, the crown prince. She says, exactly, which is why Prince Ludwig, the main character, started, saying, is it full of stars? She says, you are doing wonderfully. The main character tried to focus on not stepping on her feet, but she calls him out, saying, it's proper etiquette to look at your partner in the eyes during the dance. But if I look away, I might step on your feet, he says. She says, don't worry, so please look at me. The main character was blushing, thinking, that's a look you should save for someone you're truly in love with. I feel so guilty toward Ilsa. My stomach is twisting in knots. As they were quietly dancing and having fun, the main character calls her out, saying, haven't we danced enough? There will be plenty more chances, after tonight. She says, yes, you are right about that. There are men out there who are far more suitable for Ilsa than I am. He says, I must be nervous because my throat is dry. Let's take a break in a quieter spot. Certainly. Here comes someone who calls him out by his name. This is Sophia, who asked him, won't you dance with me? Watching Sophia's blinding face, he was trembling all over. His body was trembling as he thinks about the time she called him a hideous orc and insulted him endlessly. She spread lies about him to the neighboring countries, and now that I look a little better, she invites me to dance. I want to tell her, get off me and out of my sight, but she tried to pressure him, saying, come on, the next song is starting. But his maid Ilsa stepped in, saying, my apologies. She says, tonight, the only one dancing with Prince Ludwig is me. Sophia was fuming over this, saying, oh my, you are, if I am correct, you are his attendant, aren't you? That's right. She introduces herself as Ilsa Hildebrand. Ilsa is introducing herself without even moving. The main character thinks, that's how angry she is for my sake. Sophia says, then surely you understand Prince Ludwig is royalty. It's inappropriate for someone like you, a mere attendant, to presume to dance with him. She was speechless. The eyes of Ilsa were enough to scare the hell out of her. She points at her, saying, don't you understand? You are a foreign noble, the daughter of a ruined family on the verge of collapse. What's more, you have nothing but a mere plaything for His Highness. He says, you are right. 2 years ago, I was the hideous orc you mocked and scorned. I will admit that. He was furious. He says, don't you dare disrespect or insult my beloved Ilsa. She stayed by my side and encouraged me and supported me when no one else would. Don't lump her in with someone like you who judges others by appearances and spreads baseless rumors. We observe Eleonora saying, Prince Ludwig, that's enough. This is President Eleonora. She says, I have been watching everything unfold. You drenched a woman in her drink and yelled at her. Sophia, tried to play the victim card, and Eleonora also said, and yet, the one who insulted Princess Sophia here was none other than your attendant. It is the duty of those in power to discipline their subordinates when they behave disrespectfully. She continues, saying, huh, what? You said at the student entrance ceremony that was something like that, wasn't it? I want to see. I can't just stay silent when someone important to me is insulted for my sake. I will never allow it. He thinks, even though the worn heroine wished to see me, I couldn't protect her. How am I supposed to avoid the ruinous ending like this? He says, if seeing the real me has disillusioned you, then so be it. I, for one, have no use for those who hide behind their status and power to insult other people or for those who would accept such people without a second thought. I want nothing to do with either of them. As he grabbed Ilsa and stepped off, away with her in the carriage, they apologized to each other. Stop it, Ilsa. You have done nothing wrong, he apologized. And she says, Lord Ludwig. He says, more than that, I am the one who made you go through something so unpleasant. She says, you have done nothing. On the contrary, you even risked your standing for someone like me. The main character started laughing, saying, why are we apologizing to each other like this? I was really happy that you stood up for me against Princess Sophia. He thanks her, and she had tears in her eyes. I was always protected by you. No, more than that, you cared for me so deeply. Thank you, she says with a blushing face. He replies, we are even then? Yes, we are. So let's keep counting on each other, okay? Yes. At night, in the dormitory, the main character lies on his bed, thinking, now my plan to show my back to the heroines and break all the ruinous flags is impossible. I want to change the heroine's impression of the hideous orc to show through my actions that I am different from the vile, wretched protagonist they think I am. I hope that little by little, this perception that would have dragged me down would change and break. But now that they have seen all this, me who was drenching a woman with juice and yelling at her, I don't regret my actions at all, but there is no way they will listen to me now when I try to tell them that I am not the hideous orc. Besides, Sophia being one of the heroines, we were never going to get along anyway. In that case, maybe I should try to steer the story toward one of the ruinous endings, but that wouldn't work. Each heroine has different conditions for their ruinous ending, so I will have to deal with them one by one. The defeat ending, the rebellious ending, the suicidal ending, and there are quite a few unique ones as well. He slaps himself on the face, thinking, I will just have to do my best to survive, right? As he was going to sleep, he opens the door, thinking, who could it be? Looking at the person, he was absolutely shocked. That outfit, it was none other than Ilsa in her nightgown, a limited distribution item, a sheer nightgown. She says, I am sorry for coming so late at night. It's a bit embarrassing, so may I come inside? He says, of course, come in, come in. So what's wrong? Why are you here so late? About today's ball, I wanted to thank you properly, Lord Ludwig. The main character says, I already said we are even, but she hugged the main character from behind, saying, for me, this is the only thing I have to offer. He says, what? She replies, so please take me as you wish. He thinks, it's not like I did anything that deserved this. She says, Lord Ludwig, do I not please you? Well, that's not it. Ilsa, you are trembling. That is because this is my first time as well. It looks like both you and she are excited. The main character removes his clothes and then puts them on her, saying, gratitude or whatever it is, you shouldn't offer your precious body for something like that. But this is all I have. No, that is not what I mean. The main character says, you should save it for when you're truly, deeply in love with someone and want to be with someone you cherish. Okay? She was blushing, hearing the main character. As the main character said to her, it's late. You should go get some sleep. She says, at least let me sleep by your side tonight, please. The main character was blushing, saying, she went there. Huh? I can't dismiss Ilsa's feelings anymore. Calm down, inner orc, he thinks to himself. Yeah, sure, then you can use the bed, and I will sleep on the sofa right over here. She says, no, Lord Ludwig, you shouldn't sleep on the sofa. You should sleep properly in the bed. She climbed up on top of him, saying, so this is how it is. Let's live together like this. Yes, let's do that. She herself was totally embarrassed as well as a little Yandra for him. He was crying as both of them were in the bed together. She smiled and says, "This is my first time sleeping in the same bed as a man." He was totally embarrassed as she clung to him. He thinks, is that so? Can I, and my inner orc, make it through the night? The main character was quite sleepless. He thinks, I should probably get up soon, but I kind of want to enjoy this moment a little longer. As someone calls him out, it was Ilsa herself. She says, "Good morning." "Yes, good morning," he replied. She smiled, and with that, the main character blushed even harder. She tells him, blushing, "I was so happy last night that I couldn't sleep." He says, "Wait, did she stay up watching me the whole night?" Actually, the main character also says and with that, she hugged the main character, saying, "That makes me so happy." "All right, time to get up," he says. "I have to stick to my usual routine, you know." She calls out his name as he rushed to the door, saying, "Ilsa, you can stay here and rest. I'm heading out." She tried to stop him, but he still went ahead. "Even though I didn't sleep at all, my orc is still full of energy. I already lost more weight than a normal person. I probably don't even need to train anymore, but the thought of gaining it all back terrifies me. If I ever go back to how I was before, even kind-hearted Ilsa would leave me." As he notices someone, he thinks, "Anyway, I just need to get through this training." Wait. That someone looked back as the main character observes. It's Princess Ophelia. He apologized, saying, "Sorry for getting in your way." She says, "Well, this is the courtyard, so you don't have to worry about it. More importantly, how do you know my name?" He says, "We're classmates, you know. Besides, Princess Ophelia's royalty from the Brine United Kingdom. Everything seems self-evident." He thinks, that makes it sound like I've been keeping tabs on Ophelia. She says, "I see, just as you say, Prince Ludwig." He thinks, safe. At least she didn't take it the wrong way. "So, what brings you to the courtyard this early in the morning?" he asks. "I was about to train," he says. She wonders, "Oh, is that so? Then I'll watch for a bit." The main character says, "What? No, there's no way. There's nothing watchable. Besides, weren't you in the middle of your own training, Princess Ophelia?" She packed up her things, saying, "I was just about to take a break. Don't mind me." The main character rubs his head, saying, "Why is she suddenly interested in me? I seriously don't want to get involved with the frenzied night princess." She, drenched in sweat, says, "Come on, let's get started." Damn it, she's ridiculously cute, the main character thinks. Well, then, the main character climbs the wall of the courtyard and then falls from there onto the ground. She looked at it and was smiling, looking toward it. 30 minutes later, the main character has been doing this for 30 minutes. She was watching him the whole time. Doesn't she have her own training to do? She calls out to the main character and asks if he does this training every day. Yes, the main character says. She says, scaling walls and jumping off rooftops? That's absolutely insane. He thinks, right when I first started, Ilsa said the exact same thing. Your answer should be yes or yes, ma'am. Well, Ophelia says, this is different from what I heard in the rumors about you. The main character thinks, I see. Even Ophelia has heard about the hideous orc rumors, thanks to Sophia. She says, still, I don't know much about you yet. That's why we observe Ilsa coming from behind in her maid costume, taking his name. She raised her presence and sneaked behind him. The main character was distressed as he remembered something. If the loyalty of my maid Ilsa reaches 200%, and while another heroine's loyalty also hits 100%, it triggers the assassination ending immediately. The game guides only listed the condition, but never revealed the culprit. But now it's obvious. It's Ilsa. She's completely in Yandra mode. When did I even raise her loyalty that much? I can't even remember a single moment that would have triggered it. This is absolutely terrifying for him. Ilsa, with her hands on his shoulders, says, "Why are you here with Princess Ophelia?" He says, "What's with her eyes? No light in them." Sophia says, "Hey, who are you?" Prince Ludwig's attendant, right? She introduces herself, saying, "I am Ilsa, serving as the maid for Prince Ludwig. You must feel truly fortunate, Princess Ophelia." She had a glimmer in her eyes and was blushing, saying, "I'm honored, Princess Ophelia." "What exactly do you mean by that?" Ophelia says, Isn't it quite obvious? Prince Ludwig already has a bad reputation, and last night he acted the way he did. If an attendant disrespects foreign royalty, execution wouldn't be out of the question. Ilsa was speechless while the main character thinks, wait, was Ophelia at the ball last night as well? If she was there, then, as a royal, she definitely wouldn't have approved of my actions. But Ophelia says, however, the way you protected your attendant's dignity, even if that meant making yourself more disliked by others, I find that quite interesting. She pointed her hands toward him. He was blushing as Ophelia says, my body has gone cold. I'll take my leave. With her giant sword, she left. Ilsa says, I didn't expect her to say things like that of all people. The first person at the Imperial Academy to take an interest in me is Ophelia. I always thought she was just a straightforward musclehead, but this is quite unexpected, he thinks. Ilsa stresses to the main character, it's time for training, and it will be twice the usual routine for now. Is that fine, right? The main character reluctantly agreed as she says, your response should be yes or yes, ma'am. I need to survive the prologue first, but why is she mad? I might actually die before getting assassinated, he thinks. As both of them got ready for school, she says, please wait, Prince Ludwig, your hair is out of place. As she got close, he smelled her and says, she smells so nice. She says, all done, and he thanks her. In the class, as both of them arrived, he called out, Natalia, saying, you scheming saint. Her attendant says, since when did you two get close? I didn't summon you, so why are you here? The main character thinks to himself, her holy knight Batista is glaring at me. You should take a lesson from Marco, the other holy knight, who is too busy flirting with some other girls. We observe Ophelia coming close to the main character, saying, believe it or not, Prince Ludwig and I trained together. What? The main character screamed out while she patted him on the back. He laughed, thinking, no, we just happened to be in the same place today, right? Also, Ilsa's eyes have lost their light again. Please stop, you're scaring me, he thinks to himself. The saint was laughing. That sounds wonderful. I'd love to join you sometime, but I have to dedicate my mornings to praying to Lady Minerva. The main character thinks, yeah, sure, sounds noble, but I know for a fact you're worshipping something entirely else. Hard to imagine Saint Natalia training in combat. Is that so? She says. Well, Lady Minerva isn't just the goddess of prosperity. She's also the goddess of war. Despite my appearance, I've been trained in combat using a rod. The main character thinks to himself, the frenzied night princess and the scheming saint in the same place. Why couldn't it have been one of the other heroines, except Sophia? Why do the two worst ones have to be in my class? As the class started, everyone, take your seats, was the instruction from the teacher. Such a hard-working teacher, the main character thinks. Finally, some peace, wait. He looked toward Ilsa, and she was staring right into his eyes. She calls him out, saying, Prince Ludwig, starting tomorrow, training in the courtyard is prohibited. Okay. He stood up and says, yes, ma'am. Your response should always be yes or yes, ma'am. The bad ending is creeping in before the main story even starts, he thinks. As he was doing the slashing practice, 987, 988, his maid says to him, if you're serious about dual sword combat, use these instead. I modified these training swords. They are 5 times heavier than normal. I'm used to them now, so swinging them isn't a problem, but at first, just lifting them was nearly impossible. Thanks to the cruel training, I can finally wield a dual sword style. After 1,000 slashes, he stopped, thinking, training with Ilsa for a whole year. It was brutal, but looking back, it's kind of nostalgic. Not that I'd ever want to go through it again. All right, time to switch to my right-hand training. Even at night, here comes the frenzied night princess. She says, you're really dedicated. What are you doing at this hour, and why aren't you in your dormitory back courtyard? The main character thinks, did she come looking for me? If Ilsa finds out, she's going to kill me. Please just go, he says. She says, but when practicing your swing, you must firmly grip the sword. Even if you favor a one-handed style, the fundamentals are, as she held him from behind, her chest was pressing against his back. He thinks, and if you adjust it like this, clear your mind. Somehow, This is a classic harem scenario. Really, when a lifelong virgin like me unexpectedly becomes a lucky pervert, it messes with my head. She says, by the way, you don't have a girlfriend, do you? That's unusual. Once lights out comes, I always hit the sack immediately. Telling Ilsa not to worry and rest. I don't want to burden Ilsa with more than necessary, he thinks. Ophelia laughs, saying, that's fine. Besides, since we're training together anyway, how about a quick sparring match? The main character bowed down, saying, my apologies, but honestly, the gap in skill between Princess Ophelia and me is far too great. Is that so? At the very least, I'd imagine that a rigorous trainer like Prince Ludwig would put up a good fight with me. But the main character says, no way, I'm not nearly skilled enough. You're overestimating me. She says, I see. It's a shame. Even with that look on your face, I'd never agree to spar with you. The main character thinks to himself, still, rumors really can't be trusted. Is that so? She says. Not just in obedience, but in the way you speak with consideration and carry yourself, and that sincere dedication you show in training. The so-called hideous orc I heard about in the rumors. Excuse me, but I can say that you are by no means that sort of person. The main character saw her, thinking, I've seen that expression before. In the battle against the forces of the Brine United Kingdom, led by Ophelia, she was captured. She declared, we may have been defeated in this fight, but we fought with all our might. I have no regrets. The main character laughs, saying, thank you so much. Whether in the game or in reality, she remains the dashing Ophelia I know. She says, if I cannot spar with you, I suppose I must think of another way to test your skills. Princess Ophelia, did you say something just now? Hey, no, it's nothing. The main character, who is distracted, as she says, come now. Even if we don't spar, we must focus on our training, for if we continue like this, the night will break. The main character says, you're right. The next day, they are in the capital. How about that stall over there? They serve a drink called a frappe, and it's quite popular in the imperial capital. Is that true? The main character says. Why is there a frappe in this medieval European-style world? In my past life, I only ever saw it on TV. Well, since you recommend it, I'll try at least once. It looked like Ilsa and the main character were on a date or something. Oh my, she says. As the imperial capital's main street is so lively, he says, is it your first time in the imperial capital? With my old body, I wasn't outside the high places, and after Ilsa arrived, we were too busy. Have you been here before, Ilsa? He asked. She says, my family's estate is on the outskirts of the capital. I see. Is there a festival going on? He asked. The plaza is full of food stalls. Everything looked delicious. After school, what would you like to do? As they were going, the main character notices two people. This was Princess Ophelia and another boy. The main character wondered what was happening, but Ilsa drew her attention toward him, and he says, maybe I should take a break for once. Back in the classroom, the main character had thought about how her reasoning is simple, but at least it makes sense. Are you seriously planning to duel against Princess Ophelia? Of course not, he says. But for today and tomorrow, could you help me avoid her? And that is how Ilsa helped him avoid her for a few days. He thinks, at least I avoided the assassination ending for now. As someone is watching him from the dark, we observe Ophelia coming toward him and saying, besides, crossing swords is the best way to understand someone. That's how you truly get to know your opponent. That's why I want to. The main character was quite hesitant, but then she came and says, I promise I can satisfy you. These were the words she said to Ilsa, and Ilsa says, so, jokes like this are popular in the Brine United Kingdom. Is that it? The main character thinks, a battle maniac and an assassin. Mixing them is quite a bad idea. Sorry, Ilsa is busy, so she can't, he says. Ilsa, feeling right, says, then how about you? I've got important things to do after school, this and that. And the main character was finally able to calm her down. She says, unless I make other plans, very well, that works. Princess Ophelia, why are you so obsessed with fighting with him? Because she's a battle-crazy maniac, the main character thinks. But Ophelia says, Your Highness, that was quite rude. You wouldn't happen to be thinking something like that. Of course not, of course not. The simple reason is I want to fight a strong opponent. That's literally my logic. Well, back on the streets of the Empire, it looked like the saint has found her way back to the main character. The main character thinks, oh no, is this the black-hearted saint I just managed to escape from Ophelia? And now this? Why is the saint, Natalia? What a coincidence meeting you here, she says. Oh, indeed it is, she called out to the main character while doing that seductive move. Prince Ludwig, perhaps you were thinking about me, enjoying a drink from that stall? She thinks, poor thing, she's practically seducing me. But Ilsa came between them, saying, Prince Ludwig is about to have a frappé with me. Is that so? Yes, Ilsa told me the fraps here are really good. Well, then, since we're here, we shall have some too. Your Highness Ludwig, let's drink together. The main character still had some doubt in his mind. Saint Natalia, as Ilsa says, I may be overstepping, but considering Lord Battista and Marco behind you, aren't you in a hurry? One of them ran away. She says, indeed, but wouldn't Lord Minerva be pleased if His Highness Ludwig, the crown prince of the empire and the saint of the Holy Church, strengthened their bonds? If that is the case, then surely you understand what should take priority, don't you? She looked toward her guards with terrifying eyes. Ilsa says, the saint should enjoy a frappé with Prince Ludwig. I fail to see how that aligns with Lord Minerva's teachings. Is that so? The priestesses, the Baldoberg Empire, and the Minerva Holy Church stand together. Isn't that what's expected, considering the peace of the Western nations? Isn't it only natural for a saint to seek closer ties with the future emperor? I see, the main character thinks. She's already talking and thinking ahead, considering the possibility of war between the Empire and the Western nations. She's laying the groundwork in advance, and honestly, she isn't wrong. But the main character says, you're overestimating me. It's true that I'm the crown prince of the Baldoberg Empire, but it doesn't mean I'll inevitably become the emperor. Hearing this, Ilsa was a bit distressed. The main character thinks, in Revolt of the Ugly Orc, no matter which route is taken, I always remain the crown prince, and every ending leads to my ruin. In other words, there is no future where I ascend to the throne. Ilsa made a grumpy face, and he couldn't understand what and why. Very well, let's have a frappé, she says. Together, Saint Natalia, Ilsa says. As she placed the order for 3 fraps, the main character looked toward her and says, are you sure about it? She says, of course, it's only natural for the future emperor, Prince Ludwig, to establish political ties with the saint of the Minerva Holy Church. He thinks, so that's what she's thinking about. Ilsa originally came to me for the sake of reviving the Hildebrand family. She must believe that unless I become emperor, her goal will never be realized. The main character says to her, don't worry. Even if I never ascend the throne, I swear I'll restore your family's honor. This is my way of repaying Ilsa for everything she's given me, for giving me a second chance at life. She says, really now? That's not what I meant at all. More importantly, we should place our order. What will you have, Prince Ludwig? She asked, coming closer. The shopkeeper says, let's see, I'll have this one, please. And after, the main character saw that there were 2 straws in it. Here we go, 2 straws in 1 frappé. That means, he asked the shopkeeper, sir, shouldn't she have her own frappé? But Ilsa says, this frappé is meant to be shared between 2 people. So no, of course it is. Is this really okay, Ilsa? If you like, you may have mine instead. Natalia says, but she respectfully declined the offer. Now then, Prince Ludwig, fraps are best enjoyed while they're still cold. Let's drink. Embarrassingly, both of them came closer, and with each straw in their mouth, she gulped. As both of them started drinking, looking toward each other, they felt too nervous, and it was evident on their faces. While drinking, both of them realized how good it was and how delicious it was in their eyes. Natalia, the priestess, says, mine is delicious as well, Your Highness Ludwig. Please try. He says, no, I'm fine. Would you like to try some? She insisted. I'm really fine, he says. Is she seriously trying to set up an indirect kiss? Perhaps you should offer it to someone else regarding her guard. But she says, it looks like Lord Battista is already full from his own frappé. What is she up to? The main character thinks. where her knight says to her, I believe this is the oh my. Is that so? It looks like their time is up. Well, then, I shall see you tomorrow in class, she says as all of them leave. Her attitude at the entrance exam. There's no doubt about it. She absolutely hates me, he thinks, talking about her knight. So it's just the two of us left. Yes, it is. Ilsa and the main character were left. The main character looked at her and smiled, as did Ilsa. This is just part of her duty as my assistant, but somehow this really feels like a date, doesn't it? We observed she herself was quite blushy all over, and the main character was drinking the frappe. Well, as their frappe drinking got finished, it's time to head back. As they had closed their arms together, when a date isn't over until we get home, sleepyhead, come along. Hey, wait. If we delay any longer, it'll interfere with tonight's training. I'd be happy if Ilsa also felt this way, like we're on a date. Next time we come to Main Street, let's have a frappe together again. Yes. 1 week has already passed, and ever since Ophelia started getting involved, Ilsa has been a lot harsher. This morning's training was brutal, and I even dozed off in class. Ilsa, how are you holding up so well? He asked. Well, Ilsa has been training since she was a little child. We observed Sophia and the boy from before walking toward them. The main character realized, is something wrong over there? The man standing next to Sophia, I saw him talking to Ophelia a week ago. He was probably feeding her all sorts of lies about me. If possible, I'd rather not run into Sophia. But if I avoid her here, it'll be as if I'm admitting defeat to a woman who insulted me. We observed both of them crossed each other. She didn't even say anything. As the main character was leaving and in a good mood, we observe a lot of noble students blocking the way of the main character. He knows that they don't like him very much, but this is a bit much. We observe Ilsa taking out her daggers, saying, please grant me permission to eliminate these pests. Well, hold on a second. He says. He yelled at them, saying, what is the meaning of this, blocking our way? Do you intend to stop us from eating lunch? These nobles say, a hideous orc like you has no right to sit at the same table as us. That's right. The main character couldn't understand, but he knows the classic mob mentality. They have no real reason, but they gang up against someone like me. It's the same as a social media witch hunt. They think they're in the right, but anomalies make them even more aggressive. The main character just laughed at them, saying pathetic, and they retort, saying, what the hell did you just say, orc? I said it out loud, but Ilsa says, the prince was quite right, absolutely. She says, hiding in the shadows, insulting others from a safe distance. Hardly the conduct of true nobility. How daring. Someone came, and it looks like Ophelia has caught the collar of the main character, saying, you've shown your true colors. I heard it myself on the night of the ball, disgracing, or at least trying to disgrace, Princess Sophia. Such a hideous accusation was placed on her. He says, please calm down. There's some kind of mistake. I haven't seen her since the ball. Don't play dumb, she says. Her attendant Thomas said if I hadn't noticed and stopped him, who knows what would have happened. That's what he claimed. That guy from earlier, the main character, remembered. So that's why he approached Ophelia last week. He was setting this up in advance. I don't even know the man named Thomas. The main character says. But Ophelia says, how disgraceful. I thought you were different from the rumors, but I was wrong. I swear I didn't do anything of the sort, the main character says. Besides, that night, I was with Ilsa until the morning. The mob keeps saying, I knew it. So, in the end, this woman is nothing but the hideous orc's plaything. But he screamed out, hearing all that, damn it, I have never laid my hands on Ilsa. That night, we were simply together, nothing more. They observed Ophelia sing, very well then. I'll decide for myself whether you're lying with my sword. This muscle-brained heroine, wait a second, Princess Ophelia. You know about my dual swordsmanship, and a one-on-one duel wouldn't be fair. Ophelia says, if you lack confidence, I may join you. A 2-on-1 match is fine by me. Ilsa, if you refuse to fight, then your guilt is undeniable, and Ilsa will remain nothing more than the orc's plaything. The main character was angry beyond his normal capability and says, fine. She tried to stop him, but he says, I, Ludwig von Baldoberg, accept your challenge, And for this insult you've thrown at Ilsa, you will apologize, even if it takes your blood. It looks like a massive fight was reaching its climax. Repeating the scene's highlight, Ludwig von Baldoberg, I accept your challenge, and I will make you apologize for this insult, no matter what it takes. She says, then I'll be waiting at the training grounds after class. So it has finally come to this for him to draw the blade, a weapon created by special order using every privilege of the Crown Prince. This is his personal weapon, Twin Blade Sakura. Ilsa called out to the main character, but he stopped her, saying, there's no need to accept such an outrageous demand. I'll have it no other way. Otherwise, your honor would remain tarnished, and I have no intention of losing to Princess Ophelia. We'll win together. Hey, Ilsa, I need to discuss something. As they came onto the training grounds, Ophelia says, hey, so you came here. I'll give you that you didn't run. What's with the crowd? He thinks. Is this the whole academy watching us? Do they all want to see me get wrecked by Ophelia that badly? Ophelia says, 2 swords? Not bad at all, you can tell. The main character says, of course. Ophelia says, do you think someone who lives for battle would? The main character looked toward Ilsa as she says, please, Prince Ludwig, don't push yourself too hard. Come, then, face me. The main character was absolutely ready, and with that said, Ophelia started her outbursting attack. The main character, up against the force of a monster, somehow retaliated by blocking her strike. He was pushed back, thinking what an insane amount of power. She thinks while laughing, to think he blocked my full force strike. The main character says, I'm just as surprised as you are. His spine is frozen because of fear, and his hands are trembling. The last blow, his hands are still numb. But Ophelia didn't stop and was on her second attack, even stronger. The main character somehow held out this one as well, blocking her attack. He thinks she's swinging that thing like it's a twig. The main character was pushed back once more, and relentless attacks surged on him. What is this bizarre weight and pressure? It's like I just struck, no, slammed into a massive boulder, no, massive steel like hitting a block of solid iron. Could it be from that brutal training where she slammed my body into the ground repeatedly? She thinks as she says, I thought this would end quickly with you on the defensive the whole time, but no one has ever held out against my attack like this. He says, is that so? I didn't expect you to make this so enjoyable. I appreciate that. As he gets ready, that's all you've got? If your attack phase is now over, my arms, my abs, and my legs, my whole body is screaming. I'm done. But as you can see, I'm still full of energy. The main character bluffed, and she says, interesting. In that case, let's go all out. Her claw flashed with the style. I'll cut through everything. The full might of Ophelia of Brine. Take this. This is way too overpowered. The Stormbreaker, a skill, or some kind of swordsmanship. As it hits the main character, he somehow dodged it. He knows this is the Stormbreaker skill effect, dealing massive AoE damage and knocking back all enemies. It's a high damage move, but in return, after using it, she is incapacitated for 2 exchanges, which means, as we observe, her eyes almost came out of her head when she realized that someone was behind her. This someone was none other than Ilsa, who attacked her with a dagger. She threw her off, but Ilsa, with her assassin skills, threw the blade of Ophelia away, and then, with a chokehold with her legs, she won by submission. This is how both of them won. The main character was on the ground after this, immediately healed by someone. He himself was shocked about this healing magic, and this was none other than the priestess, who blushingly asked him, how are you feeling? Natalia, why are you here helping me? She says, I just happen to be nearby, yes, purely by chance. The main character says, thank you for the healing magic. She says, you're welcome, but more importantly, shouldn't you be watching over there? It looked like Ilsa was going to end the life of Ophelia, but the main character says, wait, hold on a second. Prince Ludwig, are you all right? I'm fine. Say Natalia, help Ilsa. Ilsa was in the arms of the main character, while Ophelia says, so that was your plan all along. If I had recklessly attacked, she would have struck me down in one blow. That duel would have ended instantly. He thinks to himself, a 2-on-1. This was the plan that the main character made. As Ophelia herself says, If you lack confidence, you may do a 2-on-1. So he creates an opening, and she strikes when the time is right. But what were you planning to do until then? I just focused on defense and enduring it. We observe the mob turning a bit unpleasant, saying, "Hey, isn't that kind of underhanded? Wasn't that supposed to be a fair duel against Ophelia? Using your attendant like this sounds like something a cowardly, hideous orc would do. Get out of here, go home." Ophelia screamed at everyone, saying, "Silence. Are you mocking the honorable duel between me and His Highness? I permitted the 2-on-1 from the start. His Highness fought within the rules, and there is no room for others to interfere in the battle." Everyone was silent there, and she says, "Thanks to those fools, the duel was completely ruined. Your Highness Ludwig, you and Ilsa fought splendidly. Ilsa, I said something unforgivable to you. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. I beg you." She says, "Please think nothing of it." The main character thinks, so she accepted the apology, more or less. Ophelia says, "Had you endured the full force of my blade like that, even without it being 2-on-1, I may have lost." The main character says, "No, I wouldn't say that." She says, "And because you endured my sword, I'll believe your words as truth." However, the rest of them may not have the same feeling. From the start, whether the hideous orc was lying or not doesn't matter. It's just that no one will ever believe me, he thinks. As she made a sound with her hands, we observe someone whose name is Clarice throwing the attendant Thomas onto the ground near the main character. This girl, and that's Sophia's attendant, Thomas. Now then, Thomas, just the other day, you clearly said on the night of the ball, Prince Ludwig tried to defile and disgrace Princess Sophia. He was trembling as Ophelia was angry. "Speak up. It's just, so what you're saying is that you dared to lie to me, Ophelia O'Brien?" He was in tears, saying, "No, I didn't lie. We observed Clarice saying, 'Princess Ophelia.'" Even after the duel, this man continues stirring up the crowd and provoking them. What a disgrace. Hold on. Is there something you need, Princess Sophia? It looked like Sophia was here. This is regarding Thomas. Oh, I had no idea he had acted with such disrespect. This man is a disgrace to the kingdom of Belga. To restore our name, perhaps execution would be appropriate. Execution? How could she say that about someone who served her? Ophelia thinks to herself, "Then should we cut off his head here and now?" Sophia says, "Go ahead, I don't mind at all." Thomas was quite terrified. He begged Sophia to stop. "I did all this for you. For me?" she says, as he was speechless after that. Ophelia says, "But the ones Thomas has truly insulted are His Highness Ludwig and his attendant Ilsa. Would it be right to leave the permission of the punishment to His Highness?" The main character thinks, "She's pushing it onto me." Ilsa thinks to herself while telling the main character, "Shall I dispose of him?" The main character took a breath, saying, "Thomas, what you did is utterly unacceptable for someone who served the crown prince. But the same goes for everyone else here, those spectators who shared and rallied behind your accusation, that said, 'I believe punishment should be decided, but not by me, by the courts of the Baldoberg Empire.' So I'll leave this matter entirely in the hands of the judiciary. Thomas might face a trial, but the other students will likely just get a warning. All court proceedings are kept confidential, which means whatever you testify won't reach the public, not even the Kingdom of Belga." Sophia looked quite frustrated after hearing the main character. Among the audience, they represent Ophelia, who says there are attendants like Ilsa and my own Clarice, and attendants like Thomas. Watch closely what becomes of each of them after the night at the ball. We observe even Eleonora was present there, the one who orchestrated the ball. The main character looked toward her, smiling, while he tried to stop Ophelia, saying, "Well then, I shall take my leave, Princess Ophelia. Could it be that this was your plan all along?" "Who knows?" she says. "Ludwig von Baldoberg, I have now seen your true self. Damn it, for muscle-ed heroine, she's way too cool sometimes," he thinks to himself. In the cafeteria, as Ophelia was having lunch, she says, "Today you'll finally join me for the training, right?" The main character, also at the table, says, "I'll pass." We observe Ilsa beside the main character, taking his name. Would you prefer to eat lunch somewhere else from now on? We observe Ophelia screaming. Even Ilsa is being cold to me. I can't even enjoy lunch in peace. He thinks, no one would ever guess that this is the true face of the frenzied night princess. Though, honestly, a psycho killer night princess who's secretly kind of a classic combo. We observe someone saying, in that case, how about this? Why don't we go out into the town, just the two of us? We observe the priestess coming from behind and hugging the main character. The knight beside her says, you dare stay away from a saintess? The main character thinks, why are you even yelling about this? We observe Ilsa beside the main character, saying, Prince, shall I dispose of these pests? Let's all calm down a little, he says. The priestess still says, oh, my dear Ophelia and Ilsa, you're both being so harsh today. By the way, Prince Ludwig, I have a special request. If I make a request from the black-hearted saint, he thinks. She says, soon, the church will be hosting a soup kitchen in the imperial slums. Might you be willing to help me? Ophelia stood up, saying, Prince Ludwig is crown prince. It would be unbecoming not to assist her. He himself thinks, that's true. As the empire's crown prince, I should personally contribute. Very well. I truly thank you for your offer, Saint Natalia. I'd be honored to help you for the good of the empire. She was very happy, saying, I'm very grateful to you. A few days later, in the center of the town, in the slums, the main character's maid, Ilsa, says, please form a line here. The knight was also there, saying, the end of the line starts from there. There's enough for everyone, so no need to panic. We observe the main character trying to pour people some food, but the people are just too eager. He thinks this is what's happening. Ophelia asked him something, and he says, knowing there are so many people suffering within the empire, it's hard not to feel overwhelmed. The main reason these people are suffering is because the empire turned toward militarism. Right now, we're just beginning to expand the military, so the impact isn't fully visible yet. But sooner or later, the burden will hit the common people the most. If I can't avoid the destruction ending and reach a survival ending, maybe I'll give in to a real guide. Ophelia says, would that not be wise? I believe Prince Ludwig could lead this nation in a better direction. He feels a bit of gratitude as he thinks even someone like me might be able to do something good. Hopefully, Ilsa has pushed me forward, and the saintess made me see what's happening in the empire. I owe a lot to both of them. We observe the knight rudely catching the main character's arm, saying, mind coming with me for a bit? The main character was relentlessly pushed, but couldn't even move him. You dare resist? The knight says. The main character says, I didn't do anything. I'm supposed to hand out food, you know? I don't have time to hang out with you. The knight says, then come to the west wall after the soup kitchen. You heard me right. He got out grumpily. The main character thinks, was it just me, or did he seem kind of rude to Ophelia? She couldn't understand what was happening. After the soup kitchen ended, we observe how Ilsa and the main character both were going there. He asked, you can wait for me over there if you want. But she says, I cannot leave you alone. As the main character reached the man, he apologized for keeping him waiting. Why is your attendant here too? What's the problem? Anyway, what do you want? The grumpy knight says, I'll get straight to the point. This is about the saintess. The main character thinks he's still as rude as ever. The knight says, listen closely. Had you been born a Baldoberg, the saintess bears the divine duty of guiding all Western nations. A man like you would only get in her way. The Minerva Holy Church that she belongs to is a massive religious force operating across the entire Western world, where influence exceeds that of many. That's what he's really saying. If I get involved with her, I'll tarnish her authority. The main character says to him directly, the decision is not yours to make. It's up to the saintess herself, and I have no intention of backing away from her. After today's soup kitchen, I might have to revise my opinion about the saintess a little. Turns out she's not as black-hearted as I thought. What was all that, then? If you'll excuse me, the main character left the knight. The knight says, don't forget this. I'll never acknowledge the hideous orc. Her holiness will one day save this broken world. She is the reincarnation of Lord Minerva, a being destined to lead us all. We observe how Marco is there. He says, I'm surprised you said you won't distance yourself from the Saintess, Prince Ludwig. Ilsa wasn't too happy seeing Marco there, asking, "You were listening? What do you mean by that?" The main character says, "Just what I mean. I thought Marco was against me interacting with the Saintess too." As both of them leave, "Thank you for today," he said to his maid and beloved Ilsa. She says, "No, supporting you is simply what I'm meant to do, Prince Ludwig. I need to express gratitude properly." Little things like this all help avoid a destruction ending. As someone calls him from the alley, the main character says, "I'm going to help clean up a bit. Can you wait here, Ilsa?" This was none other than the priestess, who says, "Sorry, forgive me for stopping you." Normally, she'd barge in no matter how tense the situation gets. What's gotten into her? She says, "I simply wanted to thank you for the earlier soup kitchen, Prince Ludwig, and to apologize." "Apologize?" he asks. She says, "First of all, thank you for the soup kitchen today. And regarding the blankets and other supplies, I'd never imagined the Empire would provide us something like this." The main character says, "Not at all. It's honestly shameful that it took the church's movement to get us involved." She says, "I don't see it that way. I think you're truly admirable, Prince Ludwig. In other Western nations, we hold similar soup kitchens, but it's quite uncommon to help the church even a bit." He says, "Really?" She pointed toward the bench, saying, "Perhaps we should sit. Standing like this isn't ideal." The main character threw in some kind of towel. "Please take a seat," said Natalia. She says, "Thank you very much." The main character thinks, "All right, good that I read etiquette books on how to." She, with a satin face, says, "You're nothing like the rumors." The main character says, "So, about that apology?" She says, "Of course. My knight, Batista, said something truly rude today. I'm very sorry for that." The main character says to her, "Please don't blame yourself for that. The Saintess didn't do anything wrong." She had tears in her eyes as he says, "Seeing Natalia, I'm sure you already know this, but I have no intention of distancing myself from you. And if it's all right with you, would you invite me to help again next time?" The main character thinks, "I couldn't do something as cruel as pushing a heroine into despair. I'd be happy to. I'll be counting on you again," she says. Likewise, as someone calls him out, Prince Ludwig. This was Natalia herself. She says, "I heard you were a monster, one who would ravage the world and defile every woman in it. Tell me, what do you truly intend? Are you really planning to bring about the destruction of the world?" He says, "Of course not." He had a big blank space as he says, "I'd never do something like that." She then left his arm, saying, "It seems you're inclined." She laughed and says, "I believe you." The main character thinks, her grip is crazy strong. Between Ilsa and the Saintess, what's with all the heroines having insane amounts of strength, even when they're not fighters? The main character laughs a bit, and it looks like the soup kitchen is finished. 1 month has passed since then, and the main character thinks, "Speaking of which, I wonder how the Saintess is doing." Ophelia says, "If I remember right, it was the kingdom of Gorgonia, the far western edge of the Western nations. I think she went to Olga, their second largest city." We observe Ilsa saying, "Here you go." She's currently treating an unknown illness at the request of the Minerva Holy Church. In this world, healing magic activates a person's life force, which means it can also energize harmful bacteria and viruses. Even someone like the Saintess, a healing expert, might struggle to save anyone like that. Treating illness harm? I'm sure she's fine, Ophelia says. Saint Natalia is probably helping a lot of people. The main character's maid also replied, "That's right. You have nothing to worry about, Prince Ludwig." We observe Ophelia saying, "I guess worrying is only natural, but what we can do is pray for her sake and also welcome her back with a smile when she returns." The main character thinks, "That's very true." When 2 weeks have passed, a letter has arrived. Reading it has become quite a big problem for the main character. The Saintess has fallen ill. Forgive the forwardness, but to Prince Ludwig and Ophelia, we both ask for aid from your empires. We have yet to identify the illness, and more patients are appearing each and every day. The Saintess lies bedridden, suffering from intensive fever day and night. At this rate, her life might be in danger. We observe Ilsa saying, "What will you do?" The main character thinks about her, recalling the time with the black-hearted saintess who always flirts and manipulates. She doesn't get along with Ilsa as well. But despite that, she does her best, trying to live up to her role, even though she's shy. I guess I can't really hate Natalia Silvestri. I'll use everything I know from my past, and I'll make sure to save her. He has made a resolve, saying, "All right, I'm going to the kingdom of Gorgonia to see what's really going on." We observe Ilsa was really against this idea, saying, "You mustn't. If something happens to you, Prince, then let me go and check on my own." But he rejected, saying Marco was in a panic. He didn't say what kind of help they need. If I want to explain the situation to His Majesty, the Emperor, I need to confirm it myself. Acting blindly will just waste time. She had a blush on her face, still reluctant, though, as Ophelia placed a hand on her shoulder, saying, "Already know, don't you? This is what kind of man Prince Ludwig is." Ludwig says the kingdom of Gorgonia is far. Let's use a portal to travel. Teleportation spell circle portals, powered by magic, allow near-instant transportation over any distance possible. Ophelia thinks portals are installed in capital cities of allied nations. We can't use one without formal diplomatic ties, right? So, the question is whether Gorgonia has a relationship with us. Princess Ophelia, if the Empire doesn't have ties with Gorgonia, can we use Brine as the midpoint? She says, "Of course." The main character says, "Thank you." Then would you handle the portal registration? "Of course," she says. "Leave it all to me." She says, "Yes." So while Ophelia asks Clarice, "I'm asking to count on you too." Clarice says, "Yes, Prince Ludwig. Let us accompany you to the kingdom of Gorgonia." "I thought you'd say that, Princess Ophelia. You know me well. Then let's head for the kingdom of Gorgonia. There are portals in the palace and the foreign ministry, but I requested access to the palace one this time." "Wise decision," Ophelia says. "If we brought back an unknown illness, the entire capital would be at risk. I doubt the foreign ministry would approve this use." Yeah, and the main character can use a little bit of strings inside the castle, and fewer people would be held responsible if something does go wrong. This is the Royal Use Portal. The connection has been completed. As expected, great work, he praises Ilsa. All that's left is to support the monarchy's need for the job. Technically, only citizens can use royal portals, but we're ignoring that rule completely today. Was this part of the hideous orc's revenge scenario? Or, we observe Ilsa saying, "Monocore for transfer is installed and charged. Thanks." No time to worry as they teleported, saying, "Just wait for me, Saint Natalia." Saint Natalia can be seen in a very bad state. She is mumbling because of the pain and writhing in bed. The main character, as well as Ophelia and Ilsa, all look toward her. Marco called out to the main character, saying, "Thank you for coming." He asked, "How is Natalia doing?" Marco was silent, saying, "As you can see, she's not well. Batista has also been infected with the same illness and is now bedridden in another room. Let's go outside. I'll explain the situation." We learn that she's turning to stone. The skin slowly petrifies until it leads to death. For the past 2 months, the number of infected has reached incredible levels. At this point, nearly the entire town has it. If it reaches the capital, this country is finished. Ophelia says, "Prince Ludwig, what will we do?" The main character was quite hesitant about it, as Marco says, "I have to change Batista's towel. Please wait for a moment." Something fell from Marco, and the main character picked it up, thinking, "Stone?" Something fell from Marco's pocket. "Is that?" And the main character just put it in his pocket. The main character called him out, saying, "Could you let me see the Saintess just one more time?" He says, "I'd prefer to say no, but..." As the main character opened the door and came near her, we observe Ilsa was quite distressed about the main character touching her. She, who is barely conscious, says, "Prince Ludwig," in the most pitiful voice ever. He was very sad looking toward her. "How shameful I look." The main character has seen this before in the game. When the Saintess is exiled and broken, she says, "Now that I'm no longer the Saintess, I'm just plain old Natalia, pathetic, discovered by the Pope and risen from a poor farmer's daughter to a saintess, but crushed under the pressure of that title. She eventually gave her soul. I'm trying to survive in a world where only destruction endings exist, he says. You're not pathetic at all, Natalia. She had tears in her eyes. She says, you've always worked hard as the saintess. You risked everything to help Gorgonia. That's exactly why we came this far, because we wanted to help. You are Natalia Silvestri. I'll save this country in your place, so please rest assured. As the main character got up from there, he was told by Ilsa that before entering the room, he should wash up immediately. He says, sorry, but excuse me for a minute. Ilsa says, it's okay, don't worry. Princess Ophelia, Clarice, I need you both to stay calm and listen to me. This is not a disease. It's caused by something called the Stone Dragon's monocore. In the game, there were multiple types of status ailments. Petrification was one of them. Ophelia grits her teeth, saying, that sort of thing, does it really? He says, I saw it once in the Royal Archive. This was a lie by him, but it definitely does exist in the game. The combat difficulty was ridiculous. Stone Dragon's monocore was added as merely a mechanic for players. If used during the invasion, it could give the user a huge advantage. If you drop a Stone Dragon's monocore into a town's water source, it infuses the water with corruption, eventually turning people into stone. Hearing this, Ilsa was totally terrified. This is not some mysterious illness. Someone is trying to destroy this town. Clarice was also distressed. The petrified people, can we save them? The main character says, there's an item known as a magic absorber stone, sold by merchants who trade with the Empire. But with so many residents affected, can we even get enough to treat everyone? He thinks, still, we should do everything in our power. He says to them, we know what needs to be done. First, secure enough magic absorber stones, and then find the Stone Dragon's monocore. Prince is absolutely correct. Yeah, in that case, let's move right now. They were ready. In the castle of the main character, his father says, so you wish to bring magic absorber stones from the kingdom of Gorgonia? He says yes. Without the king's cooperation, there's no way to secure such a large amount of magic stones. Kingdom of Brine, he says. After all, diplomacy is about aligning with the distant and pressing the close. They're more likely to extend goodwill to distant nations than to neighboring ones. If the Empire can offer aid here, we'll gain long-term advantages. His father looked at him with fear in his eyes, but then laughed, saying, haha, to think you were this clever. Very well, do as you wish. He says, so, really, this emperor is really a softie for his son. All right, I secured Emperor Otto's approval. Thank you so much. He says to Ilsa, things went well on my end. Just like you, Prince, she replied. She says, shall we inform the Kingdom of Gorgonia or the Holy Minerva Church? The main character says, no, that's too soon. We still don't know who plotted the Stone Dragon's monocore. If the culprit gets wind of this, they might try to escape. The Empire and the Brine Kingdom are both involved now. We'll be able to secure enough magic absorber stones. Getting the magic absorber stones themselves isn't hard, but getting enough to save the whole city of Olga will take time. We observe her pressing his hand, saying, you don't need to bear all this alone, Prince. Even the Minerva Holy Church has given up on Gorgonia, yet you alone have extended your heart. Do you realize how much hope that gives to these people? I, Ilsa Hildebrand, have seen your resolve with my own 2 eyes, and I take great pride in being able to serve you. Thanks for saying that. Watch me closely. I'll save Olga, and I'll make those behind this pay for what they've done. That's the spirit, she replied. In the teleportation circle, we observe they meet up with Ophelia and Clarice. Ilsa, there's something I'd like you to do, the main character says. She says, whatever it may be, please, give this magic absorber stone to the saintess. If she holds in her mouth, it'll cure her petrification. I need you to sneak into the clinic and avoid Marco and Batista's attention. You're the only one I can trust with this. She gave a slight smile, saying, if that's your request, then leave it to me. He, who smiled, says, you've always been the only attendant and will be forever. As she teleported, she says, of course, I'll always remain by your side. Now then, it's our turn, he says to Ophelia and Clarice. There's something I need the help of the two of you with as well. Leave it to us, they say. Apparently, Olga gets its water from the pond that we're near right now. Ophelia thinks, what are we doing here? Clarice thinks, does His Highness suspect that the stone dragon's monocore is hidden in? Of course, the main character says. That's absolutely correct. Clarice, do you realize what that would mean? If the stone dragon's monocore is in there, we'll have to search the entire lake bed. Go in there, and we could be turned into stone ourselves. With this mini magic absorber stones, I can dive in dozens of times, he says. Besides, I can hold my breath for 5 minutes. Never thought that pervert CB survival training would come in handy. Ophelia was against it, saying, you're about to enter the most affected area. Even a magic absorber stone, it's suicide. But he says, there's no need to worry. I'm a hideous orc. I may look thinner, but I still weigh 300 pounds. I can't float anyway, which makes me perfect for exploring the bottom of the pond. She says, you see this like it's no big deal. Clarice also thinks, I sent Ilsa off on a mission to keep her away. Whether I come out of this alive depends entirely on the both of you. He says, I'm counting on you for the afterlife. They say, leave it to us. If I run out of air, or if I find a stone dragon's monocore, I'll pull on the rope and signal you. We observe Ophelia's spirit, saying, I, Ophelia of Brine, will never let you die. And if you do, then I'll follow you to the tree. The main character thinks, please don't say things that are super ominous. He got ready with the stone in his mouth, saying, all right, I'm going in. Prince Ludwig, please be careful, she says. May luck be with me. Here, he directly reached the pond and thinks, it's bigger than I expected. Pitch black still. As he was getting close, he was turning into stone. The petrification is strongest in that direction. That's where the stone dragon's monocore is. Even with the magic absorber stones, the petrification is spreading quite fast. What'll happen to me if I touch that core directly? No, there's no time to worry about that. As he was sliding in the water, getting turned into a little rock, he finally saw the shimmering core of the stone dragon. He knew it in the first instant, but his body was getting petrified. He couldn't move. He started to eat up the stones. The stones aren't keeping up, though. All right, this'll work. As he grabbed that core, now all that's left is for them to pull me up. We observe as the main character lost consciousness, he was pulled up. Ophelia was terrified. You damn fool, Ludwig. So was Clarice. Ophelia says to Clarice, give him all the magic absorber stones. Hurry. Looks like I won the bet. We observe them totally covering him with the stones. He can't speak. The petrification even affected his voice. Covered head to toe in magic absorber stones, only his face is sticking out. That's kind of ridiculous. He can move a little bit now. Princess Ophelia, someone called him out. The main character thinks, isn't this amount a little excessive? We observe Ophelia giving him a tight hug. She says, I was really worried about you. I'm sorry. We observe that at the same time, Ilsa came back. She was a bit confused about what was happening as she took the name of the main character. Crap, Ilsa's back now of all times. Did she track me with clairvoyance or something? She rushed toward the main character, throwing Ophelia aside, saying, what happened to you? Ophelia told her. He jumped into the pond himself to retrieve the stone dragon's monocore. Why would you say that? The main character thinks that we observe Ilsa, who, rather than being angry, was on the verge of breaking down. Do you really want to trouble me that much? Do you really want to make me that sad? Every time, she broke down in tears. The main character apologized to her. Honestly, never do that again, she says while crying her heart out. Please don't ever do something like this again. The main character thinks, I won't worry Ilsa like this again. As he says, I'm sorry. We observe Ilsa still making a pouty face, saying, I'll never leave your side again, Prince Ludwig. The main character was quite in trouble. He says, anyway, Ilsa, are you all right? You didn't get hurt, did you? She retorts, worry about yourself before you worry about me. Well, that's fair enough, he says. The Saintess has already made a full recovery. What would you do next, Prince? She asks. I'll make sure the one behind this suffers a death full of despair and anger. Ilsa says, leave it to me. The one who did this needs to be. Just promise me you don't do anything reckless, he says. Ophelia says, does Prince Ludwig already have a suspect in mind? He says, I'm not sure who the mastermind is, but I've got a strong idea who it is. I see. Ophelia says as she grabs the sword given to her by Clarice, her attendant. She says, I, Ophelia of Brine, will personally beat the culprit to a pulp, Clarice. She shouted at her attendant. The culprit has angered someone they should have never crossed. We observe the main character, as well as Ilsa, getting into a fighting position. Here comes Marco. What brings you out here? The main character asked him. Shouldn't you be tending to the Saintess right now? Marco says, don't play dumb. What did you figure all out? Ophelia says, Prince Ludwig, he's a holy knight of the church. He's supposed to be the Saintess's ally and protector, isn't he? But the main character says, the petrification core's energy affected the entire city. Even the Saintess fell victim to it, and yet he, who stayed by her side the whole time, remained unharmed. It's far too unnatural. The mastermind behind this entire scheme is the Minerva Holy Church. Ophelia asked, why would the church do something like this to the kingdom of Gorgonia and harm even the Saintess they represent? How could they? I don't know why this exact city was targeted, the main character says, but because of the Saintess's presence, some saw her as a threat. In the game lore, the Baldoberg Empire opposes the Pope of the Minerva Church, and a key figure drives their conflict. It also plays a role in the Saintess's story. That's because the person Natalia respects most is the Pope, Agri Mazzoni, and the one opposing the Pope is Cardinal Lorenzo Ruffalmaldini of the Minerva Holy Church. Cardinal Lorenzo, who wants full control of the church. The Saintess, who's aligned with the Pope and loves the public, is simply an obstacle. We'll get the full story soon, straight from his own mouth, in Gorgonia's prison. The main character says that he senses someone attacking him from behind. This was none other than the foolish Holy Knight, Batista. She says, you're siding with the Saintess's enemy. Was everything you said at the soup kitchen just a lie? How dare you? You're the one who betrayed the Saintess, says this foolish man who attacks the main character out of nowhere. We see the Holy Knight attacking the main character, who asks, what did I even do? What are you talking about? The Holy Knight responds, I saw it myself. The same taste, with a blissful look on her face, kneeling to some wild demon and pleasuring herself. She's never done something like that before she met you. The main character, fighting the knight, thinks to himself, what are you doing saying this? Worshipping a demon is your choice, but at least don't get caught while doing it. The main character, looking at the Holy Knight with a kind yet gloomy expression, says, wait a second, were you spying on her? The man blushes, caught in the act, and stammers, what? Shut up, shut up. He repeats this for a while before declaring, I am her protector. I must watch her every day, 24 hours a day. That's my duty as her attendant. The main character retorts, that's outright stalking her. We see the main culprit from behind, asking Batista to fall back for now. The main character, looking at him, says, then we'll be going. But Batista warns, the next time we meet will be your end, you hideous orc. Even now, though the main character has become a good-looking orc, he's still called a hideous orc. The princess and the other girls protest, wait, we're not letting them get away. But the main character stops them, saying, no, don't pursue them. The princess asks, are you just going to let them go? The main character explains, we know who is behind it. If we report it to the Kingdom of Virginia and the Minerva Holy Church, it should resolve itself. Looking toward the forest, he adds, that's enough, right? Someone emerges from the forest, none other than the Saintess herself, who looks downcast as she steps out from her hiding place. The girls exclaim, you were here? The main character's maid confirms, yes, at Prince Ludwig's request. The main character says, I wasn't about to let you leave alone with a stalker, you know. How are you feeling? The Saintess replies, I'm fine, thanks to the magic-absorbing stone Prince Ludwig gave me. I'm fully recovered. Then she adds, you heard what Batista said, right? Me worshipping a demon, Diablo as Saintus? It's ridiculous, right? For a devoted follower like Batista to lash out is understandable. With tears in her eyes, she continues, I'm sure you're disappointed in me too, Prince Ludwig. The main character reassures her. Why would I be disappointed in you? Whether you worship a goddess or a demon, that doesn't bother me at all. It's not because you're a saintess, it's because you're Natalia Sylvester. That's enough for me. She hugs the main character, crying. He thinks to himself, what someone worships doesn't decide their worth as a person. Smiling at her, he says, now come on, let's punish them hard, whether it's goddess Minerva or demon Diablo. Let's make sure both judge them. She covers her mouth, tears of joy in her eyes, and says, you really are something, Prince Ludwig, before jumping into his arms, hugging him tightly. Seeing this, the other girls grow nervous, and the maid makes a face. The main character, however, is happy in the waiting room of the Kingdom of Virginia. Before the Hall of Mist, someone asks, will the king really accept our plea to save Polga? The maid replies, if you're the one asking, Prince Ludwig, there's no need to worry. Natalia Sylvester, still very close to the main character, tries to feed him, saying, more importantly, these snacks are delicious, aren't they? The main character says, you're getting way too close, you know. She responds, it's fine. No one's here. It's just you and me, Prince Ludwig. But the other girls are watching with jealousy in their eyes. Natalia puts a biscuit in her mouth, saying, now dig in. The maid comments, it's not necessarily a bad thing, is it? The main character thinks to himself, she turned away from me, right? The Princess Knight, still waiting, says, we haven't been called in yet. Her attendant offers, shall I go check? The main character, still stuck with Natalia, notices a butler arrive, announcing, the preparations are complete. Please proceed to the Hall of Mist. There, King Dennis II of Virginia welcomes Prince Ludwig, Princess Ophelia, and Lady Saintus. The main character says, it's an honor to have an audience with your majesty. The truth is, we have secured the dangerous stone dragon's core ourselves. As for the missing magic-absorbing stones, both the Empire and Brian have begun transporting them. Your Majesty, please make the decision to save your people. The main character thinks to himself, this is Virginia's problem. We don't have to grovel. There's no obligation to help these people. But still, I've chosen to try to save them because I want the Saintus' efforts to be rewarded. Do you agree, Your Majesty? Minister Ricardo, who has the ideal look of an evil, sinister figure, says, yes, Your Majesty. We've already investigated the origin of Polga's mysterious disease. It was caused by the Minerva Holy Church, the Pope's faction, in other words. The Saintus is the ringleader behind this crisis. They orchestrated this tragedy themselves, then appeared to save the people, gaining new followers. It's a tactic for expanding power. The main character, shocked and angry, glares at the minister, saying, so you're saying we staged the whole thing? It's a self-made crisis. The minister continues, stone dragon's cores are difficult to import. The Empire likely purchased them from the maritime nation of Gabino and selectively distributed them. And look here, standing beside the Saintus is the hideous orc Prince Ludwig. What better evidence do we need? He smirks at both of them, adding, I never imagined the Brian Kingdom would support this scheme as well. This is directed at Ophelia, who retorts, how dare you? The king stops the minister, saying, that's enough. There's no point in continuing this argument. The cause of the crisis has been eliminated by Prince Ludwig's party. All that remains is to deliver the magic-absorbing stones and save the people. That is the simple truth. Our duty is clear. We must not waste another moment. Don't wait for the Empire or Brian's support. Distribute the magic-absorbing stones to Polga's citizens immediately. The knights bow their heads, the main character smirks, and the minister's sinister plan fails as the gates close. In the waiting room, the maid, sparkling with joy, says to the main character, you've done it. I'm glad King Dennis turned out to be a good ruler who truly cares for his people. Let's move out quickly, all right? Ophelia adds, and what about those traitors? With all due respect, Prince Ludwig, I doubt the cardinal faction will ever admit fault. But we've already secured the Stone Dragon's core, and the Gabino Maritime Kingdom, which supplied them, is one of the Empire's closest trade partners. They'll tell us who was behind it. The main character smirks at the compliment, thinking, so you thought that far ahead? That's our Prince Ludwig. The scene shifts, and we learn that, thanks to King Dennis's swift orders, the magic-absorbing stones were distributed, starting with those in the most severe condition. The Empire also secured a large supply and was ready to transport the rest. Thanks to Prince Ludwig, Polga was saved from disaster. But then, Minister Ricardo arrives with his knights, declaring, "Clear the way, criminal Natalia, the so-called saintess, for the crime of plunging Polga into chaos. You are hereby placed under arrest." This is a new twist in the story. As the knights move to arrest the saintess, the main character stands against them, saying, "I won't let you." Ophelia stands behind him, drawing her sword. The main character challenges, "Are you ignoring King Dennis's command to prioritize Polga's salvation?" The minister retorts, "How short-sighted of you. Prince Ludwig will capture the saintess, the cause of this crisis, and the rest of your group as well. Once the truth comes to light, His Majesty will understand." The main character thinks, so that's what they're planning, to pin everything on us. He realizes the Holy Knight and the orchestrator were in cahoots with the minister. "Don't tell me Ricardo and the Cardinal faction were in on this from the start." He tells the maid, "Clarissa, Ophelia and I will handle this. Get this to King Dennis." The maid, unsure, hesitates, but the main character insists, "Those are my orders." She replies, "Understood. Don't worry, I've got Princess Ophelia here, and I'm actually good at defense. We'll see you later." As they move toward the king's palace, Princess Ophelia uses her Stormbreaker skill, defeating knights left and right. The main character, watching her, thinks, "That's some insane firepower." So reassuring. Ophelia shouts, "Prince Ludwig, incoming." The main character clashes with the idiotic knight again, who accuses, "You're the one behind all of this. My little toy. I'll make the saintess pay for it too." The main character snaps, "Shut it, you pervy stalker." Ophelia tries to help, calling, "Prince Ludwig, are you okay?" But from behind comes the real orchestrator, who says, "You left yourself wide open." He tries to slash Ophelia, adding, "Sorry about this, but I've just decided to switch sides." It turns out he's now on the main character's side. The idiotic knight yells, "Marco, you lunatic!" But the main character kicks him in the groin, sending him to the ground. Ophelia, confused, asks, "What the hell happened?" Marco replies, "Nothing." The main character asks, "So you were with us from the start, right? I was hoping to surprise you a little more, you know." Marco, who always seemed to slack off, was actually guarding the saintess and eliminating suspicions. Even the stone bits were a diversion. The idiotic knight rages, "Betraying us for the ugly orc? You'll pay for this, you traitor." Even with Marco on their side, being surrounded is tough. Then someone arrives, Elsa, the maid, announcing, "My lady, reinforcements have arrived." Marching with grand posture is none other than the Pope of the Minerva Holy Church, Argueta Monzoni. She declares, "Stop. I've heard everything. You must have quite the reason for trying to pin this mess on my dear Natalia." To the minister, she says, "I've brought evidence proving Natalia's innocence. Shall we take our time and talk?" She gives a death stare to the minister while approaching the main character, saying, "Your crown Prince Ludwig of the Baldivorg Empire, correct?" He confirms, and she adds, "Natalia often speaks highly of you. It took some effort to catch these scoundrels who tarnished the Minerva Church's name. Since we're all here, let's make everything clear. Would you care to explain yourself, Cardinal Lorenzo?" The cardinal looks sheepish as she approaches the minister, saying, "Are you too ashamed to speak? Then allow me to lay bare your crimes. Let's start with the Stone Dragon's core supply chain. You purchased them from the Kingdom of Belga. Belga, that's Sophie's home country. So, Lorenzo has ties with them too." She explains their connection. "King Dennis has arrived. He came here with the Pope." Dennis reveals, "My mother, the third queen of the previous Borgonia kingdom, was originally a royal from Belga. Many nobles, including Ricardo, supported her. I became king solely because of that faction. The Pope adds, Lorenzo and Riccardo are quite close. We even found many letters from Lorenzo's estate, Your Majesty. This is a conspiracy. The minister begs, the Minerva Church is colluding with Baldivorg. But the king has made up his mind. You cause great suffering to the people of Palga. Don't think you'll get off easy. Arrest Riccardo and escort him to the capital now. The main character hears voices. It's the pervy knight. Looking at him, the main character says, it's over for you. Just accept your defeat and quietly get arrested. The knight screams, how dare you? Damn it, all of you. He pulls out a jar, breaks it on the floor, and an octopus-like monster emerges, integrating with him, giving him black eyes and a demonic face. He snarls at the saintess, you belong to me. In a mad fit of rage, his tentacles attack everyone. Ophelia asks, do you know what that thing is? The main character, in serious mode, says, an evil roper. It's a slime that melts clothing and acts as a powerful aphrodisiac, one of the nastiest monsters in the dungeon. The Pope and the Saintess, slightly aroused, say, oh my, this is going to be troublesome. They both know exactly what it is. Elsa warns the main character, be careful. He replies, Marco and I will deal with this monster. Stay back with the rest. Marco grumbles, I guess we don't have a choice. As the tentacles approach, the main character and Marco slice them one by one. The tentacles head toward the Saintess and the Pope, but Ophelia cuts them down. Though told to stay back, Ophelia is caught by the tentacles. Elsa rushes to save her, slicing the tentacles off Ophelia's body. But now Elsa is in trouble, moaning as the tentacles touch her body, gripping her chest and lower parts. The main character yells, like hell I'll let you. He dashes toward her, cutting the tentacles to free Elsa. As she's freed, she warns, look out, Prince. The monster shifts its attack, binding the main character in a tentacle ball and trapping him. Inside the evil roper, the main character thinks, I feel disgusting. Am I actually inside this thing? It's tight, but I can still move my arms. As it drags him toward the main body, he sees the core. The pervy knight has taken control, but the main character thinks, it doesn't even realize I'm holding a weapon. As he nears the core, he stabs it, causing a blast that shatters the monster. The main character flies out, his clothes melted by the slime acid. He thinks, looks like I'm not hurt. All that training paid off. He notices the pervy knight, likely dead. Elsa hugs him tightly, saying, Prince Ludwig, are you okay? Why do you always do such reckless things? The main character, still in her embrace, says, of course I came to save you. That's obvious. He notices her clothes are also melted, revealing her chest. He tries to say, Elsa, your chest. She looks down, realizes, covers herself, and runs away. The main character turns to the other ladies, Ophelia, the Saintess, and the Pope, and says, all right, guess I should head back. They're surprised, and he realizes he's naked. Ophelia says, you can't just show me that. Her attendant adds, impressive, as expected of a prince. The Saintess and the Pope say, oh my. Marco comments, you've worked really hard. Thank you. The Saintess, blushing, looks at the main character with adoring eyes, thanking him for defeating the monster and resolving the crisis point 2 weeks after the petrification incident. Palga has recovered, thanks to the church's support. The people are slowly regaining their smiles. Minister Riccardo was executed, and his family was exiled. At the academy, everyone sits side by side. Elsa smiles at the main character. Ophelia says, if we're truly comrades, you should drop the formal speech. Elsa, with a dark expression, says, don't you think so, dear Saintess? The Saintess, hugging the main character, replies, I suppose so. Elsa snaps, Lady Natalia, that's not an appropriate distance between comrades. They bicker, with Natalia saying, if we're comrades, isn't this completely normal? The main character agrees. Ophelia's right. We don't need to speak so formally anymore. And stop calling me Your Highness, will you? Marco chimes in, yeah, nothing we can really do about it, Prince Ludwig. The main character says, wait, You're a student too, Marco? He replies, I finally got out of that armor. Now that the immediate danger is gone, I can breathe again. The main character remembers Batista, possessed by the evil Roper, didn't make it back, which saddens him. The Saintess, also feeling low, says even the Minerva Church's investigation couldn't identify the evil Roper's full details. But this isn't something you need to carry alone, Ludwig. The main character thanks her, recalling that in the game, a merchant from the Gabino Maritime Kingdom sold evil Roper items. He might know something. Ophelia says, now that Ludwig and I have grown closer, it's the perfect time to train together. Elsa retorts, no way. You need to focus on your studies until finals are over. The main character thinks about finals, remembering the academy has exams and a summer break, including a swimsuit event. He says to Elsa, let's both do our best, okay? She replies, if it's you, Prince Ludwig, there's nothing to worry about. The Saintess, hugging him, says, for someone as excellent as Ludwig, I think I'm the most fitting partner to stand beside him. Elsa throws a knife into a burger, saying, the final exams have a practical test too. I heard people get hurt pretty badly every year. How scary. The main character agrees. Yeah, I'm worried about the practical part too. It's apparently a 2-on-2 tag team match. Not sure why nobles need battle skills, but if that's the rule, and partners are only announced on the day, that's brutal for people with social anxiety. Probably to prevent students from making shady deals ahead of time. Wouldn't be surprising if someone tried to buy their grades. Lower status students wouldn't even be able to refuse higher status ones. I'm the most hated student in the academy. I might even get stabbed in the back during the match. Someone yells, just looking at his face ruined my appetite. The main character looks toward a boy being harassed, with people saying, he's such an eyesore. Get lost, freak. For a second, he thinks they're talking about him. A young boy and girl, avoided by everyone, catches attention. The main character thinks, it's not my business, honestly. It's a relief if they leave me alone. But he calls out, hey, you there, want to eat with us? The boy is ecstatic. The main character thinks, yeah, I can't just ignore him. He says, sorry, you probably don't want to sit with someone like me. The boy replies, no, I'm the one who should apologize. Sitting with Prince Ludwig, Princess Ophelia, and the Saintess herself? This guy gives off serious comrade energy. The main character says, it's nothing like that. If you're okay with it, we'd love to have you. Ophelia says she doesn't mind, nor does the Saintess. Elsa adds, whatever Prince Ludwig wishes, I'll obey without question. The boy sits with them as the main character introduces everyone. This is my attendant, Elsa, and the Saintess Natalia. Over there is Marco, Natalia's bodyguard, a holy knight. Ophelia introduces herself and her attendant, Clarissa. The boy tries to introduce himself, but gets sheepish. Ophelia says, what's wrong? Won't you tell us your name? The main character adds, don't rush him, but his voice, I swear I've heard it somewhere before. The boy apologizes and introduces himself shyly. My name is Gilberto Elmgard. I come from the Gabino Maritime Kingdom. The main character remembers him from a game. A merchant from Gabino who sold shady items like Stone Dragon's cores and evil Roper items. The Baldivorg Empire, seeking to conquer the western region, only has diplomatic ties with Gabino. Gilberto says, Prince Ludwig, our country is quite indebted to the Baldivorg Empire. Ophelia remarks, so you're from the merchant nation. Our kingdom has no relations with them, but I've heard the rumors. Poison, narcotics, slaves, weapons, and armor supplied to warring minor states. Merchants of death. Pirates form the basis of your nation. The main character responds, you're known to conduct inhuman trades without remorse. Ophelia, but I don't see what that has to do with Gilberto himself. Gilberto says, sorry, I think I'll just go eat somewhere else.